Welcome, everybody. I'm Marty Rasmussen with Action Coach, and today we are fortunate to have Heather Fox on the show with us. And I have to tell you, she has a very exciting background, and I just want to share a little bit of that about her and her husband, Brad. They're the stars of Should I Stay or Go and Stay or Sell on HGTV and Discovery Plus. And they are designing homes, they are renovating homes. She has a real life outside of her TV show, and she also has a design build company, and she keeps herself very, very busy. And also, I believe you have a product development area too, or a product studio that you have a lot of your hands in as well. So, anyway,
Yeah.
welcome to Heather. Thank you for joining us today.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Marty. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we are excited to have you. I've had a chance to do a little bit of cable TV work in my past. It's been a few years since I
Oh,
last did it, but we did some work with on cable and really loved the opportunity. Ours was focused on helping veterans and doing some remodeling work in their homes. So I have a passion for that for sure. But you really are really coming at it from a very kind of innovative, design centric standpoint. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
yeah. So my husband and I, Brad, we are co-business owners. We work together in kind of all senses, even though we run our own parts of the business. We have a design build firm. So I run the design side, and also work pretty heavily in the build side. We have a shop as well, like you mentioned, where people can come in and see all the different products that we have that we're selling right on the corner of 44th in France in Edina. And then we also have a real estate company. So it kind of started as real estate. We were just kind of working with buyers and sellers. And this was about 18, 19 years ago when we started in the industry. And it's just kind of grown and developed over time. So a true story of like starting small and things have just kind of grown from there.
Well, let me just dive into that a little bit deeper, if you don't mind. Tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get started in that? I mean, things were a lot different 18, 19 years ago than they are today, especially in that space that you're talking about. So tell us how you got started.
Yeah, so I started working for a large national builder, and my husband, after I got into real estate, he decided he's like, hey, that looks kind of cool. He was in the sales world and he started working for a condo developer. So I was selling new construction homes kind of across the Twin Cities, and he started working in like Northeast Minneapolis. In a condo development. And this was before Northeast had its big boom, right? So it was definitely still kind of in that up and coming um, point at that point, the Northeast Minneapolis area. So we kind of started there and worked our butts off when we were young and kidless and had lots of extra time doing the real estate thing. And through that, we ended up doing a few, we don't like to call them flips. Many people call them flips, but more renovations of projects that we would buy these dilapidated homes, fix them up, and then resell them. And through that, we had lots of people coming through our open houses. Friends were asking us if we could do these projects. So our first, I think, 4 or 5 flips we did were all purchased by friends of ours. And then through that, they were kind of like telling their friends, and everyone kind of was getting to understand a little bit about what we were doing and asking if we could help them. So it kind of evolved and evolved into a build company. So now my husband's the general contractor, and I have a background in design. So we kind of started that portion as well, which goes really hand in hand with real estate because it's hard when you're out there looking. All of our clients, I think most people are on some type of a budget, right? So finding everything they want within their budget. So we started helping them kind of find a fixer-upper and turn it into something that suited their needs a little bit better. Through that, we were actually truly doing that. HGTV caught wind. They were kind of looking for some, they call it talent, whether or not that's what it is, right? That's what they call it, talent, in Minneapolis, to have something kind of in the Midwest. And they asked if we would be interested in doing a show with them. So it was kind of great because we actually were able to show the world what we do, and it was real, and they were our real clients, and they were real situations. And that was our one thing. A lot of TV reality TV, not to burst anybody's bubble, but it's not all totally real. So for us, we were like, if we're going to do this, we want it to actually be as real as it can be anyway, with TV cameras following you around. And yeah, it was great. So that was 2016. We kind of started that HGTV journey. We were a product of COVID, and we had 2 seasons. Our series didn't get renewed in 2020, at like the summer of 2020, which, you know what, actually really ended up being kind of a blessing to us, I think, in our business and where we were at that time. Anyhow, we needed a little bit more time to ourselves to focus on our business and to help it grow. Because during that HGTV time, it was 40 to 50 hours a week of just filming. And then we were truly running our businesses, on nights and weekends. And we had 2 small kids at the time. It was kind of a lot. So I think actually that end of the filming was a positive thing for us, to take a little bit of a break.
Wow. Fantastic. So have you started filming again?
We haven't. We've had a few opportunities come up that just haven't really been right for us. So we're chatting with a few different scenarios. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's something else again in the future, but nothing official right now, which is, again, we're okay with that. It's been a nice break just to kind of catch up and get the right people in place, get the right processes in place with our businesses. We opened, but really me, opened the retail store over here. So it's been nice to have time to focus on that as well.
Let's talk a little bit about the store. Why don't you share with the
Sure.
audience a little bit about what you're doing there? You mentioned where it's
Yeah,
located in Edina, but tell us a little bit how what caused you to open that? It seems like it's a great adjacent business to what you're doing, but you don't see it
totally.
very often. So I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, so through the real estate and then, turning into the build, I was styling homes for people that were selling their houses. And then when people would buy a new home, they'd want a little bit of help as well. And then obviously through the design, the new build and renovation, when that project is done, we always do furniture and accessories and styling and make it kind of fit their needs. So it just really felt like a natural thing for us to open up a home accessories and decor store, just because I was already sourcing it from all over the place anyhow. So I'm like, well, gosh, maybe this makes sense. The bummer of it is that we signed our lease and got everything in place, and we were set to open in April of 2020. And then this little pandemic happened. So we had kind of an interesting first year, but we decided after making it through that, that we're pretty well set to, in the retail world anyway, make it through a good amount of things.
If you can work through that, start a
Yeah,
business and work through that, you pretty much can tackle anything in your path.
right.
Well, that's great. So you told us a little bit about kind of where you're at. So just one question about the build side of it. Are you still in Northeast Minneapolis, or do you do work all over the Twin Cities? If people are interested, I mean, tell us a little bit about where you
Yeah.
work geographically.
Yeah, so for the most part, we do large scale renovations and new builds. Our main area is Edina, Minneapolis, kind of the western suburbs, but really we do projects all over if it's the right project. So not a ton in Northeast anymore, just as we're more on that Edina side, so the western side, and we end up finding that if we're doing 3 or 4 larger renovations at a time, it's nice if they're 5 or 10 minutes away from each other, because then we can check in daily. Our carpenters and our plumbers and our electricians can kind of like hit multiple projects of ours within the same day as well. So we try to keep them generally close. And I would say kind of the main focus of ours is just that western suburb area. Edina tends to be, it and kind of southwest Minneapolis is where we typically are. But yeah, the right project will go anywhere. And from the design side, we do take national work. So we work kind of all over California, New York, Atlanta, and a lot obviously locally here as well.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, Edina's going through kind of another boom, right? I've seen places where they've been tearing down 2 houses on 2 lots and building a one single one. It's been
Yes.
interesting, kind of recycling of that community in the past few years.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting to watch. It's some of it's great and some of it is a little much. So we're trying to be uh the make good decisions for our clients as well as for us and the projects that we take on, and making sure that the neighborhoods that we're building in are happy to have us there as well. So looking at the projects that we do and making sure that they make sense within the areas that they're in.
Well, so fantastic background. I mean, how you've worked through this and how you've kind of learned and adapted, not just through the pandemic, but really through your business and started to expand into the store and that. Where do you go from here? What's the journey look like in the next few years?
Yeah, I think that we finally have figured out, and this is crazy, and this is what's about, small business and any business really, is it takes a while to get to the point where you feel like you're doing things well, right? And I feel like we're finally to the point now where we're like, okay, we've got this build thing figured out. We've determined like how best to set up our projects and real estate as well. So all of these things. So really, I think that for us, the next few years are really just kind of continuing to hone that in. And for us, the best thing that we can get and the best thing we can hear is when our clients are happy and excited and loved the process, because it's not a quick one, right? Like when we're doing a renovation or a new build for someone, we're often with them for at least a year, sometimes more. They spend a lot of time with us. We get to know their families well. They know all of our employees really well and us. So I think that just kind of continuing to build on that and making um, the right decisions for our business too, not to grow too quickly, taking the right projects on. And now I feel like we're again just kind of finally within the last year feeling a little bit more settled, especially after all of the things that our industry dealt with during the pandemic. I mean, all industries did, right? But the construction industry was hit pretty hard.
I can completely understand. I was president of a large national remodeling franchisor, and we had a totally different model than yours. It was more on transactions, really, in terms of quick turnaround time, as opposed to what you're describing, which is I love the relationship side of it. That was something that we didn't have the opportunity to do as much. But that to me is a big part of any business, and it helps sustain the businesses like yours. So fantastic. Well, here's one thing I would love to hear, especially with the some of the challenges that you faced and where you're going. Is there anything in particular that you can reflect back on, in this past 18, 19 years that you would want to share with the audience that could give them maybe a chance to be able to learn from some of the things that you learned so that they don't have to?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm a generally emotional person, right? And my husband is the logical one. So for us, we have a great partnership because I tend to kind of follow my gut and he follows the numbers. So I think it's important to have both. I really do. And I feel like that's something for us. Like it's not always 100% numbers focused. It really isn't, in some businesses, maybe more than others, but there's also that just like trusting your gut and understanding if you feel really strongly that something should be done a certain way, dive into it more, even if it doesn't seem like the numbers always make total sense. And that was something we've both dealt with, both Brad and I, through the build side, through our retail store, where it's having that emotional side as well as that really logical, number side. Also, you have to have both. But I think that there's a bit more emotion and feel in it than some people give it when it's a small business, especially.
You touched on something too that I think it really resonates with me. I mean, at Action Coach, we've dealt with almost 1 million clients around the world, small to medium-sized businesses, and you and Brad, that is a common scenario in small to medium-sized businesses, husband and wife,
Yeah.
and having to be able to go to work together, come home and have dinner together, have your weekends together, have your business together, have your home life together. I mean, that in itself can be a bit of a challenge, but I love the way you pointed out the difference between the two of you and your strengths and finding that balance, not just at home, but how you apply it to your work and to your customers.
Right. Yeah. And it's work for sure being married to your business partner, but I think that over our almost 20 years doing this and 20 years this year being married, it's the like finding our strengths and focusing on them for sure. Not necessarily trying to tackle the same things all the time. He has his parts of the business that he runs. I have my parts. We, of course, talk about it all the time. And it is kind of embedded in all of our lives and our kids' lives as well. But just, kind of finding your strengths and really focusing on them.
It's great. Great advice. Thank you for sharing that. Well, Heather, we're so grateful for you spending some time with us and sharing more about your businesses and the work that you've done in the community to help people renovate their homes and build new ones and really kind of redesign that part of their lives. I mean, what a blessing that's got to be for you and Brad to be able to do that as a
Yeah.
living. So it's got to be a lot of fun too. But thanks for joining us. We're grateful that you took the time.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things I was just curious, if people are interested in learning more about Foxwell, either the retail store or the design build side of things, is there a way for they can reach you?
Yeah, so we're pretty out there on Instagram, which is Fox Homes MN and Foxwell Shop and Studio. Our website is great. If you go to foxhomes.com, that'll kind of take you to all of our different sites. And then my email is heather@foxhomes.com as well. So any of those areas, but our website will kind of take you anywhere. And the Instagram is kind of the fun, pretty stuff with all of our project photos and before and afters and some construction progress, all of that kind of stuff.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for joining us. And to those of you that are watching today, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. I just really want to encourage you to meet our friend Heather and Brad and go to their websites and get to know their businesses and how you can benefit from it. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to her at her email address like she suggested. So thanks again for joining us. I'm Marty with Action Coach, and we look forward to our next interview session in the days ahead. Thanks for joining us. Bye.